Shotgun with Charlie.
Riding shotgun refers to the practice of sitting next to the driver in a moving vehicle. The term riding shotgun came around after the time of the stagecoach, when somebody used to sit next to the driver holding a shotgun, in case they ran into bandits. My name is Charlie Cook, and I drive a lot. I like to talk to people while I'm driving, so I interview people in my car while I'm driving. Welcome to Riding Shotgun with Charlie. All right, before we start today's episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie, I'd like to say thank you to everybody that watches the YouTube channel. If you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, I thank you very much for doing that. If you are watching the show and you have not subscribed to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel, please do so. And if you subscribe to the channel, please make sure you hit the notification bell so you can see when new shows come out. If you would like to support the show and help get the stagecoach across America, there's a couple things you can do. You can buy some Riding Shotgun with Charlie patches, or some Riding Shotgun or some Gungram stickers at that website as well. And it's the ridingshotgunwithcharlie.com on the shop page on the ridingshotgunwithcharlie.com website. If you would like to support the show and buy a t-shirt or a hoodie or a mug, I have those on the Teespring store. The website for that is ridingshotgunwithcharlie.creator-spring.com. I'll put a link for that in the show description, so if you'd like to get some Riding Shotgun with Charlie coffee mug or a shirt, that would be greatly appreciated. Actually, if you do that and get a picture with me, put it on your social media, your Instagram, whatever, please make sure you send me a picture, and I will, if you buy a shirt, I'll send you a couple of stickers, but you got to reach out to me so I know that you bought it. All right, thank you guys for watching the show. All right, welcome to this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Today we are in Jamesburg, New Jersey, and we have Grant Gallagher from ScotShot. Grant, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, you're welcome, man. It's a pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine. Even though we're in New Jersey, the pleasure's all mine. All right, let's talk with Grant. We can tell from your accent that you're not from these parts?
No, not from around these parts, no.
So did you walk under a ladder, break a mirror? Like, how did you end up here in New Jersey?
Well, it was through a job. So I was offered a job at one of the major universities in New Jersey. My real job is I'm a scientist in immunology and genetics. So I was offered a job in one of these back in 2001. Mm-hmm. We actually arrived. I'd been in universities all my life as a postdoc, and then as a lecturer and professor, and so that's how we ended up in New Jersey. Was offered a job at what used to be UMDNJ, has now been moulded back into Rutgers, and we came in 2001 on August 28th, so just before the whole 9/11 thing. And we were lucky, actually, in some ways, because my son and myself had gone up to Oklahoma to give a talk about lupus genetics, and because he had to start 12th grade on September 5th, we declined an invitation to stay there for a week's vacation, which would have had us stuck there for 3 months because of what happened after 9/11. So yeah, that's how we got here.
Very cool. You're a pretty smart guy then, right?
No.
You're a scientist.
Not everyone's going to agree with that, but anyway, yeah. I've been lucky.
That's really cool. Very cool. Very cool. So how does this lead into gun stuff? Where you you come from?
So I came from Glasgow in Scotland. Okay. And my only experiences of shooting prior to coming here was that I had a friend whose dad was a hunter, and so I knew about shooting, I guess, in some ways. And I had shot rifles briefly for my Air Cadet Squadron back in East Kilbride in Scotland. And then I didn't shoot at all until then. And in the interim, what happened was the atrocity at Dunblane happened. Yeah. And the consequence of that was that...
I don't think we had a stop sign.
No, we didn't.
Okay.
Anyway, the atrocity, in the interim between leaving Air Cadets and coming to the United States, one of the things that happened was the atrocity at Dunblane happened, and as a consequence of that, civilian access to handguns was completely removed.
Wow.
So even the British Olympic air pistol, I believe the air pistol, but certainly the live fire pistol shooting teams have to go out of the country to train. So it's a very strict ban on civilian possession of handguns. But interestingly, in the UK, a handgun is defined not the way it is here. It's defined by the length of the barrel. So if you have a handgun whose barrel is greater than 16 inches long, then you can have it. So there are people who compete with revolvers, as far as I know, with the barrels that are more than 16 inches long. So and there's lots of other philosophical differences in how firearms are controlled in the UK versus here. So in the UK, the whole thing about handguns was concealability. So it was decided that you couldn't really conceal a handgun with a barrel that was 16 inches long, because even if you could hide the gun well enough, your limp was going to give you away.
It's not quite practical.
Well, no. And then
unless it's a cane. Could you have a cane gun?
No. That's completely out of the question. And the other thing is suppressors, right? So in the UK, being Britain, it's considered to be bad manners to shoot a gun without a suppressor because it makes too much noise, and they're not regulated in any way. If you've got access to, if you're approved to have a firearm, then you can just wander into a store, again as far as I know, and purchase a suppressor with minimum amount of difficulty, unlike here. So different ways of addressing.
I've heard some English people say that it's acceptable to shoot with a suppressor there.
Oh yeah.
And I don't want to say it blows my mind, but God bless them. That's great. We have suppressors obviously on our vehicles, so why shouldn't we have them on our guns?
Well, anyone that's ever shot with a suppressor knows full well the magical silencer.
Right, it's not like the movies.
That they have in the movies, right? And,
yeah.
So the whole argument against having suppressors here is, to me, somewhat specious, but there it is. So, anyway, that was the time that we ended up in the United States. Yeah. And that was my shooting experience up until then. So
how do you get into it while you're here? So I would assume, like at a prestigious university, it's not that it's not acceptable, but you always think of people in higher education that frown upon people having guns and gun ownership.
Well, not having the background of being here, I would say that is partly true, but then a lot more people have guns than admit to it generally. Right. So I was gotten into it by a friend of mine who was a postdoc in someone else's lab, and he and I became friends because we had a relationship with a kind of secondary lab, one from his job, and it was secondary to my job, but we both worked in the same secondary lab, as it were, and we got talking, as you do, and he is a firearms owner and suggested that my wife and myself, why don't we go shooting? So we went shooting, and so we got her, that was, when was that? 2006, 2007. Anyway, we got our first handguns in 2008. And I had a friend who lived out in Pittsburgh who was from Poland, and he was into guns as well. And so it just kind of went forward from there. So started shooting around about 2008. The winter of 2008 was when we got our first guns here. So,
what was your first gun?
So my first handgun was an HK P30. And the other gun that was purchased at the time was a Sig 229. And the triggers on the two guns, not knowing anything about handguns really, and doing all the beginner mistakes about teaching yourself and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
There was about a £1 difference on the double action trigger and the single action trigger on the P30 relative to the 229. And being new, I just didn't settle with it, and I liked the 229 much better. And so in the end, I traded in my almost brand spanking new P30 for towards a 226, and that that. And since then, almost all the guns I bought, with the exception of ones I bought specifically for teaching, have been Sig handguns. They're my favourites. So.
Very cool. Have you done any classes up at the Sig Academy?
No, I've always wanted to go there, but the time demand, but more particularly the cost of those classes, it's just difficult for me to justify. So,
I will say this. I used to look at the prices for. I live in Massachusetts, so it's a couple-hour drive to get up to Sig Academy. I looked at the prices for classes, and it was always out of my price range. And last summer, I have no idea what happened. The handgun, the way Sig works is you can't take handgun. You have to take handgun 101, and then 102, 103, 104, and then after that, you can take all the other classes. The price for a handgun 101 class went down to $150. And I'm like,
really?
Yes. That's what I said. I'm like,
okay.
I've never seen the price for this. And I'm like, this is a little bit more than what somebody pays to take one class with me. So if somebody pays, $125 for a class with me, I can certainly spend $150 at Sig.
So that's really interesting, actually, because one of the things that happened shortly after I started ScotShot was that every single piece of shooting had to come out of ScotShot. It was no longer a family hobby. It was now, well, you've got ScotShot, Grant, so ScotShot can just pay for everything. So, and I was like, wait, what? What just happened?
Wait a second, right? It's all a business write-off.
Yeah. Well, it would be a business write-off if there was enough money in ScotShot to pay for it. Right?
So I've told people this too. They're like, oh, you can use riding shotgun and that's all a tax write-off. I'm like, no money comes in. So it can't be necessarily a write-off. It's a. Yes. I always tell my accountant tells me it's a fun hobby.
It's a fun hobby, yes. Yeah. That's pretty much what my accountant tells me as well.
So the Sig class, I would absolutely suggest checking them out again. The handgun 101 class I did last summer, $150, and then I did the handgun 102 class, and that was maybe $250. Right. And then a handgun 103 was about $250 again, and then I maybe $175 for an AR class on a sporting rifle.
Yeah, a friend of mine has been to a lot of Sig classes, and he's a master pistol or master handgun, not quite sure what they call it, or senior, I can't remember. Anyway, he's a well-qualified pistol instructor out of Sig Academy.
Oh, that's cool.
And he speaks very highly of it, and I would like to do it, but it's, as usual, it's a question of time and money. So. Oh, sure, absolutely. One of these days.
Absolutely, I thought it was great. I did, like I said, I did the handgun 101, 102, 103, and I did the AR class with one of my buddies in this past year.
Well, one of those days, viewers, all donations kindly accepted.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. Good stuff. So, how do you get into instructing after you go from making your first handgun purchases?
So, my profession has been tertiary level teaching, right? Okay. So when you're in that kind of business, you know pretty much there's always a way to teach something, and it's a very typical story. I'm sure you get guns, and then people say, "Can you take me to the range? Can you show me how to do this?"
Sure.
And then out of my real life background was, well, there must be a way to teach people how to do this. There must be a way.
Right.
And for me at the time, the way was the NRA way. So I took my first classes with Anthony Calandro up at Gun for Hire.
Gun for Hire. I love Anthony. He is the man.
We were just talking back at the diner. I can't remember whether the first class was range safety officer or whether it was personal protection inside the home. But anyway, I took both of those with Anthony, and that was fine, and I really enjoyed that. And then the first instructor class was with a chap called Chet Wilson, who was running an outfit called Shoot NJ here in New Jersey. Yeah. And I did an instructor class with him in a very cramped little classroom up above the Yardville Inn in Yardville. And I was very fortunate that after doing the class, Chet asked me to join Shoot NJ as one of their member of their instructor pool. So I did that and started to teach people how to shoot handguns. Yeah. Basically teaching NRA basic pistol.
Gotcha.
And
alright, I think I went this way before.
Yeah, you can go that way.
Alright.
Basically teaching NRA basic pistol, and then Chet helped me to go through rifle instructor, shotgun instructor, personal protection inside and outside the home, and he really took me under his wing. So he was a big influence in becoming a more broader minded instructor, and also getting me a lot of initial experience in teaching people.
That's cool.
And then it was only when Shoot NG really just the glue on it came a little bit undone, that ScotShot got formed in 2013, and then all bets were off, of course, because now you're out there having to do it for your actual self, and all the stuff that went on behind the scenes that you didn't know about, you're faced with it on,
Right. Yeah, you got to turn this into a business.
Order materials. Wait, what?
What materials?
That takes how long to come?
Right.
And all that.
I got a class this weekend.
I've got a class this weekend. Yeah. Well, the overnight delivery is $120.
Yeah.
Slight exaggeration, but still
slight, but not
steep.
much.
Yeah.
So I've got a funny story about Chet. I teach the Utah classes up in New Hampshire for this company called Defensive Strategies, and the gentleman that owns it, his name's Bob Bullard. And I started, I don't know if you know this, but I make videos where I play the trumpet and shoot the gun at the same time.
Was that you?
That is me.
Oh, right, okay.
It completely is.
All right.
And so I showed these at a Utah class at Defensive Strategies, and Bob was like, "Hey man, don't show people this. We're trying to teach people how to be safe with guns." And I'm like, "All right, whatever." So, this was 2015, I think, and in 2016, I ended up. Should we turn here or go straight? I want to go straight. Let's go straight. Do you know where we're going, or do I have to pull up directions?
We're going to end up back at the diner.
We're going to end up there eventually.
Well, you can go straight and come off, or you can go down.
Okay.
You can go down to the right, but.
So anyway, so I had I call them gungram videos, and the gungram videos got a little hot one Christmas. I had 5 million views in 3 days on the Alien Gear Facebook page. And I went to SHOT Show with the magazine company, and I'm at SHOT Show, and I'm just kind of running around like I don't have anything to do. I don't have any responsibilities. I go see Bob. He's near it's part of the Second Amendment Training Division, Second Amendment Foundation Training Division, and so Bob was there, and Chet was there. And Bob goes up, and I'm like, "Hey Bob, how you doing? Good to see you." He's like, "Charlie, it's my buddy Chet. Chet, this is Charlie. Charlie does the Utah classes. Chet's my buddy from New Jersey." And I looked at Chet. I said, "I also make videos playing the trumpet and shooting a gun, but Bob doesn't want to talk about that." Chet jumped out of his chair.
Oh yeah.
And he says, "Oh my God, I'm more excited to meet you than I am to meet Jerry Michalak." And I'm like, "You have got to be kidding me."
No,
He's like, "Oh my God, these things are awesome."
I can just hear him and see him doing exactly that.
Oh man, it was so funny. So funny. So anyway, Shoot New Jersey, Chet Wilson's helped out a lot. Yep. And that's led to ShotScot, and you didn't realize how much stuff you had to do to.
So that led to ScotShot, and
so staying with the teaching thing for a second, I'm one of these guys that when I got into gun stuff, I didn't think about being an instructor. Like, it wasn't anything that I thought about, wasn't anything that would have been ever on my radar. But after as a guy that's been a teacher for 25 years, after I get into guns, I'm like, hey, I can teach people how to do this. Right. And that was, like you said, it's just one of those things. I'm like, hey, I can do this. I can show someone else how to do this. This will be pretty cool.
Right. And what's the best way to put this? It's useful to have the same kind of way, doing things the same way. One of the great things about NRA is that the curriculum is, it's the same all the way across the country, and the material is relatively good, and it's good, solid, slightly boring, but very good groundwork stuff. And it wasn't until much later, when I got into instructing through USCCA, that I realised that there was a completely parallel world to recreational shooting, which is what NRA is all about, which was the much more defensively orientated shooting. Right. And again, that's when another opportunity opened through someone again that's become a good friend of mine, an instructor out of Pennsylvania called Clint Macro.
Oh, yeah. I've had Clint on the show.
Clint introduced me to USCCA and encouraged me to become an instructor, and then encouraged me to become a training counsellor with USCCA. So the consequence is now that here we are in 2021, and I'm a training counsellor for NRA and I'm a training counsellor for USCCA, and I run instructor classes for both of those.
That is very cool.
Disciplines. So it's really good. But again, it wouldn't have happened without key people at key points along the way. So.
Oh, absolutely. Like you were saying, I'm certified to teach the NRA classes, and I can teach, I don't know, half a dozen of them or so, because in Massachusetts, those are the classes that are acceptable classes in order to get your license to carry. And I would love to become a USCCA instructor, but I don't know if more people would continue their education. And part of the reason, to me, is that when somebody's not a gun folk and they don't know anything about firearms, they do know the NRA, they don't know the USCCA.
Right. I think, yeah.
Yeah, so that's, and even my non-gun friends, my college roommate, when I told him I was doing riding shotgun and doing the gungram videos, he's like, oh man, all that stuff you're doing with the NRA is cool. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything with the NRA, man. He's like, well, no, all the gun stuff. Oh yeah, I gotcha. So I think the NRA is like you said, it's a great place to learn the fundamentals. And if you want to learn a little bit more, if you want to learn something more defensive minded, then absolutely the USCCA is the way to go.
Again, both of these organizations primarily focus on beginners and new gun owners. Both of them have got slightly more advanced classes that are available for people, but there really are a lot to do with introducing people to firearm use. Both NRA and USCCA talk about responsibly armed Americans in one phraseology or another, and it's very true. And particularly now, with COVID and all the stuff that happened in last year, there's a huge number of people that are coming in with no experience whatsoever.
Yeah.
And they've decided that they need to have a firearm for whatever reason, and it's mostly a defensive reason. And so these people bounce between the NRA classes, basic pistol primarily, where they learn a lot of really background stuff, and then they come into USCCA where they learn basic defensive pistol and home defense fundamentals and that kind of thing. And the two curricula are really complementary. They really are complementary, and I like to encourage people to be instructors in both, simply because of the complementarity of the two sets of material. And it's really, so that's what we do.
Very cool. When you tell someone that they start off with an NRA class and then go to a USCCA, do they want to stay with the NRA? Do they trust you? Not that you're not trustworthy, but do you know what I mean? Like, does somebody say, hey, listen, I want to stay with the NRA stuff? Because, again, people that don't know just don't know.
So if people, you can't force people to take training they don't want to take.
Right.
But the USCCA stuff, people come in from both sides, either from NRA or from USCCA. It doesn't really matter. They come in from NRA because they've just bought a gun, and they want there's a subset of people who want to learn about the gun and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then that's absolutely great. And then there's another subset of people who have come in through USCCA because they've got a gun and they want to learn about how can it be used for home defense, for example, or how does it fit into a home defense plan. And it's not a magic talisman, right? It just doesn't just sit in the drawer and protect you.
Right. I want to buy a gun with
right. And so if you're going to have a gun as part of your home defense plan, then you've got to have a home defense plan. And then it fits into that from that point of view. But yes, we are lucky that people who come to ScotShot tend to come to ScotShot again and again, and we bring people through. We brought a number of people through to instructor just because they came in.
Oh, very cool.
And they've stayed with us. And we finally, last year, not too long ago, managed to get some of the pistol people to break out and take a basic class in rifle. And it really is interesting because rifle is really the core firearms skill, right?
Right.
But everyone wants to do pistol because everyone has pistols.
Right.
And getting people to do rifle has been quite difficult, but that seems to have been overcome. Hopefully that will work out. Rifle's a lot easier than people think. It's a lot easier than people think.
Right.
So
I like when I get into gun stuff. I really liked all the Jeff Cooper stuff and the material and the books that he put out. And the impact on me was the complete book of modern handgunning, and it's a book that I've turned to a number of times since I've started shooting. And one of the things that I really it's humorous to me, interesting to see all the old guns that they had, because all those old guns are hardly ever around anymore. Mm-hmm. But it's great to see the stuff that they were, people were using at the time. What I found really beneficial was the training program that he talked about. Mm-hmm. How you should spend 6 months dry firing every day, 10 minutes, and he's saying shoot at a light switch because it was small and everybody had one. Yep. And then he says you do that and then go out and shoot at a round target that's 3 inches and shoot at it 10 feet away, and then go to 12 feet and 15 and work your way back until you're shooting the same thing at 50 feet. And what I thought was really cool is he says, listen, if you do this for 6 months and really stick to it, you don't go out and do any planking, you don't go out and fooling around, just 10 minutes, 6 days a week, 10 minutes a day of dry firing, go out for an hour a week, move the distance back. In 6 months, you'll find that you're shooting better than everybody else.
I can relate to that. I mean, I think that it's much more beneficial to take the same size target and push it further out than it is to keep the distance the same and make the target smaller.
Right.
It definitely makes a much bigger difference if people get to understand that the shots are going to spread, and then it's their job to refocus them back into that smaller circle.
Exactly.
And so that is really useful. And the shooting at the light switch thing, that's a fun idea. One of the things that we use the SIRT pistols for, the laser training pistols, is we use them to encourage people to practice their flash sight pictures. And we do say things like, shoot at the light switch, or if you're sitting watching TV, if you're sitting watching TV, use your SIRT to do things like shoot at the front door, or that where someone might be coming into your house.
Right, it's part of practicing.
I know that they're really designed for trigger reset, the SIRT pistols, but for beginners, I don't like to teach trigger reset to beginners. And when they're coming for defensive shooting, it's much better to teach them that they can present a gun and fire it quickly and relatively accurately, particularly over the short distances that are in most people's homes. So I love them for that. The SIRTs, I mean.
To finish with the Jeff Cooper stuff, 6 years into shooting, at first I was like, 6 months, I can do it faster than that. 6 years later, I'm like, you know what? I should have put that 6 months in.
Well, I mean, it's true. People, you keep seeing again and again some version of there's no advanced shooting, there's only well-developed fundamentals, right? I mean, and I'm paraphrasing that. But there's a lot of truth in it. And I like to tell people at the end of a class, when we've come off the range, then they should divide their range time up into work and play, and decide in advance what their work is going to be and how many rounds they're going to spend on that particular work. So is it going to be that they're going to spend some time shooting single-handed left hand because they never ever did that before and they want to get to know what that feels like, or they're going to shoot into that 3-inch circle at 5 yards or whatever it happens to be. That's their work, and then always finish off with play. Shoot the zombies, sink the submarines, shoot the bunnies at Easter time, all that kind of stuff. Because it's the fun feeling of that that's going to bring them back.
Yeah, that's cool. That is cool. The Cooper stuff. I thought I was going with something. Cooper targets, SIRT pistols,
color codes of awareness.
Color codes of awareness was great. And of course, after September 11th,
everyone was in orange.
Yes, everybody was in orange, and it was interesting to see people that weren't gun folks talk about this. And then you talk to the gun guys, you're like, oh yeah, we've been doing that since Jeff Cooper, since the 60s, which is pretty wild. SIRT pistols training, shooting from the house. There was something I was thinking about there, but I can't remember what it was. That's all right.
Well, so you're a trainer, right? So how do you? What's the biggest thing that you find is most difficult for people to get their head around? Is it trigger press? Is it breath control? Is it straight arms and presentation?
So, remember that question? What I was thinking about is you were talking about the SIRT pistols and trigger reset.
Oh yeah.
I honestly, I didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get it. Like, the light didn't go off on the trigger reset to me until I did the. Oops, this is where we want to start. Woo! Hang on. That was my phone.
That's all right.
I honestly didn't get that until I did the handgun 102 class up at SIG.
Right.
And I get it. I talk about it. You know, I mean, I don't want to talk about it, but I've heard people talk about it. I understand what it means, but I didn't like. At first, it was like shooting skeet or shooting at clay. So you're like, oh, I don't have enough time to sit there and think about what I'm looking at and aim. You know, it's a lot of that kind of stuff. Trigger reset was one of those things. I'm like, there's no way you can tell when the trigger resets. And now I can't not hear the clicking sound of the trigger reset.
Right, and shooting to trigger reset is an important skill.
Oh yeah,
but it's not a beginner skill.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
It's not a beginner skill.
All right, we're at this crazy intersection again.
Yeah.
All right, we need to wrap things up. Is there anything else that you would like to hit or talk about or mention or bring up?
Well, I don't know. You know, I enjoy teaching people.
Yeah.
Certainly, if anyone's interested in taking classes with us, they just need to go to ScotShot.com.
Okay.
And you can find all the classes that we do there, and links to our training calendar and all that good stuff.
All right.
We primarily focus on teaching beginners. We don't do any of the ninja running, jumping, climbing trees with handguns kind of stuff. There's lots of people who do that very well. Yeah. And then I would always refer people to those other people.
Yeah. When people say that they want to do some high-end training and do I teach those classes, I'm like, I don't. But I said, if you find someone that's teaching a class where you can hang upside down from a helicopter and shoot an AR, sign me up, because I'm interested in that. That sounds totally cool.
Yeah, well, there is that.
Yeah.
Shooting hogs from a helicopter would be much more fun, I would think.
So before riding shotgun with Charlie, at the very beginning stages, I wanted to, like, my dream list interview was to shoot hogs from a helicopter with M16s with Ted Nugent. And I'm like, God, how do I get Ted Nugent in the car to be on a show? or, you know, like, flying a helicopter and shoot hogs with Ted Nugent. That would be totally cool.
Well, I'm in for that one.
All right, well, good. I'll get 2 seats.
All right. Listen, thank you very much indeed.
Grant, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Before you go, I want to give you a set of riding shotgun and gun gram stickers. See, that looks like...
Oh, wow, thank you.
That is me.
It does look like you. Yeah.
And a riding shotgun with Charlie patch. These are for you, so put it on
Thank you very much.
Put it on your gun case, or if you're a patch guy, put it on your patch. That would be cool.
I will.
Thank you for watching the show. If you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please make sure you do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out the Self-Defense Radio Network at sdrn.us. Please join the Second Amendment Foundation at saf.org. And also, you can donate and contribute to the Citizens' Right to Keep and Bear Arms at CCRBKA, and I never remember if it's a .com or a .org. So please check out the CCRBKA. Thanks for watching the show. If you want to get some Riding Shotgun with Charlie patches and stickers, ridingshotgunwithcharlie.com on the shop page. There they are. I love it. If you'd like to buy a shirt, a mug, or a hoodie, you go to ridingshotgunwithcharlie.creator-spring, and I'll put a link below there. So please check that out. And if you like the show, like I said, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the notification bell, and share this with a friend. This is how we get the stagecoach across America. Grant, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.